With the new Dragon Tree support that's come out in Chasm of Lost Souls, pretty much all Brant Gate mask decks have gotten a significant boost, including Orphist, so I wanted to discuss what my current list looks like and the impacts that these cards have had on it. So let's just dive right into it by discussing the new cards first. And that we can start with is the Kaya's Kite Tool, and grab this card from my list, there we go. And Dragon Tree Wretch Elim Dot. So I think Kaya's Kite Tool is the, whoa, I just saw some deer walking across the street. Tangent. Back to the cards. Kaya's Kite Tool is just an amazing support card. And I say amazing because it is a highly impactful support card for any Dragon Tree strategy, as this one card guarantees you your mask and your Mask of Hydrogrum and your Mask's unit. Just automatic setup for or Energy Blast 3 and Counter Blast to be able to get into your mass unit on turn 3. But let's actually read the card effects. So it's got 2 here. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, cost Energy Blast 3, search your deck for up to 1 Mask of Hydrogrum, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Then racked rearguard circle, Counter Blast 1, bind this unit, choose one of your rearguard circles without any Dragon Tree markers, put a Dragon Tree marker on it. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with masks or Griffagila in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. When you look at the deck by this ability, if your bind zone has 1 or less cards with the same name as this card, look at all of your deck instead of the top 7. So basically it says the first time you use this effect, you can search your deck for for this deck it would be your masks unit, so Orphist masks, and of course if you're playing Griffagila deck it would be Griffagila. So just this, you can't get better consistency than this. The only thing that make it better, obviously, if you make it cheaper as well. And then we got Dragon Tree Wretch Elim Dot, and this got 2 effects as well. Auto, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle with a Dragon Tree marker from hand during your turn, or discard from hand while riding from your ride deck during your turn. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Dragon Tree or Mask in its different card name from this card, or up to 1 Mask of Hydrogrum from among them. Reveal it, put your hand, and shuffle your deck. So good ride deck discard that also can be played on rearguard circle subsequently to dig for additional cards as well. Then act, drop, remove this card, choose up to 1 of your vanguards with Mask in its card name, reduce the next number of cards you remove for the cost of that unit's ability by 1 until the end of turn. So this essentially acts as different name copies of whatever the base form of your mass unit is to be able to use that remove effect multiple times without having to actually run those additional copies, which is very welcome because a lot of times those end up being bricks in deck because their sole purpose is for that remove effect. And now you've got a card that can actually do something. It's a good ride deck discard, and there's call down to search out additional copies as well. So very nice additions that just add to the overall ceiling of Brant Gate mask decks. So with these 2 cards out of the way, let's just kind of first discuss what is Orphist's general game plan after these effects. Hasn't changed too much, but still want to go over it. The early game objective is as follows. You want to set up for your turn 3 to make sure that you can go into your mask form. Typically, you want to go second with this deck, so you'll also be unlocking Persona Ride. You also want to be setting up world orders, accumulating multiple in your hand, because now they have a grade 1. We can set one as soon as turn 1. We do get the 1 search, but ideally you want to be setting one every single turn. That's turn 2, turn 3, so on and so forth. We also want to be setting up worlds in our drop, and thankfully we've got the Delcomanus to be able to pinpoint search specific orders to send to drop, but also just drawing excess and discarding for ride deck is also sufficient for that. And that's because once we do get to grade 3, we want to start sending them from the order zone. We also have some nice flexibility here because of the ability to get into Dark Knight means that Delcomanus is alive as early as turn 1, and these also scale nicely into once we get to turn 2, because they gain 10k, and since we're going second, opponent's going to be at grade 2, they can hit into make good numbers for that as well. Of course, with grade 2, we are hoping to have found the Kaya's Kite tool to be able to pinpoint search our Orphist and Mask of Hydrogrum, or just have naturally drawn into it through other means through all the drawing because of our world orders, or maybe we found an LM dot to discard to search it out. Once we're at grade 3, this is where we start really compiling our orders via card effects that we've sent to drop either by discarding or with Delcomanus, because we get 1 search off the Orphist. We also have Polarxis to be able to set it up. And then from there, our goal is just to go into our mask form, compile those world orders, and just start swinging for 5 attacks and trying to send as many world orders as makes sense to be able to essentially make those 4th and 5th attack as big as possible. And then if that doesn't work, we just want to make sure that we found Persona Ride, more ways to reset auras via Polar Arxis, we got Orfist Mass Effect, and then of course we've got the Elm Dot to help us use it more frequently. Just keep resetting those world orders to be able to keep doing as big of an offensive push as possible until we ideally win. Getting to the deck list and starting off with the Ride deck, we just have our standard Orfist Ride line, does exactly what we need it to. And of course, Reach is just the better Orfist version because we get to just cheat out a set order right away, accelerating that count overall. Nothing more else to be said here, just pretty standard stuff for Orfist. Moving over to the main deck, first I want to discuss the mask package because we need those. We've got Orfist masks, 4 of those with 2 Mask of the Hydrogum. And then for consistency, we're running a 3-2 split of Kaya's Kite Tool and LM Dot. So Mask, of course, at 4 copies because not only we want to find more of those just to keep Persona riding turn after turn. Really like the 4 copies there to ensure that we have that. And even if I do find extras, like I had a game yesterday where I found extras, but I was able to feel like I could safely discard one for like a PG because I still had plenty more copies in deck to draw into, and it worked out perfectly. So that's been feeling good. 2 Mass of the Hydrogum. We're not looking to play this card. We just want to find it. So we run 2 copies to make sure if one gets damaged, we still have one in deck. 3 Kaya's Kite Tool. This actually aligns with the previous Dragon Tree Searcher we had in here that just specifically found Mask. And I still like that ratio. I was finding that at 4 copies, that I was finding more copies than I need because I really just need to find the one to guarantee Orfist and Masks and the Mask of the Hydrogum. And anything past that wasn't, I mean, I could search out an additional copy of Mask just to deck them a little bit, which is nice, but I can still do that. Essentially, I was finding more copies than I felt like I needed, and I decided to try it at less copies because this deck is packed. It's really hard to find space because of all the different pieces you need to get this deck to work, especially with the World Order side of things. So anywhere I feel like I can make a cut, I want to do that to make room for other stuff, and this was definitely an area where I felt like I could, because you can also just naturally find these cards. This ratio I feel like is further supported by the 2 LM Dot, since while obviously for consistency's sake, having this 1 LM Dot be a Kaya's Kite Tool does make it more consistent. Like this is only a top 7 searcher for a 3 of card in that scenario, so it's not guaranteed. However, it does, while it does give us a knock in consistency for finding this specific card, it's not like that this card, we can't naturally find these cards, and Kaya's LM Dot helps us find potentially the other one as well. On top of that, LM Dot's ability to be removed, giving us additional uses of Orfist Mask, remove another named copy of itself, or different named Orfist, I find to be highly valuable. It raises the deck's overall floor, allowing it, and not even floor, it is a slight hit to the floor of the deck, but to raise the overall ceiling, which felt really good for a deck like this, to be able to kind of min-max some stuff here, especially since it's so tight on space. Like any time that I can be a bit more flexible with my ratios to include cards that allow the deck just to do a bit more of what it wants to do, and that overlap I find to be very valuable. So I've really felt like this ratio here has served me well so far when testing the deck, where I can feel like I can consistently access this these cards I need to set up when I need them, but also be able to do other stuff that the deck wants and needs to do, just make this deck feel well-rounded overall. Next up, let's talk about the other major side of this deck, and that is the world side of the deck. So for our actual world orders, we're running 10 of them. We've got 2 Overcoming an Eternity, 1 Eclipsed Moonlight, 3 Howling Moonlit Night, and 4 Twilight Boundary. So the best card here is obviously Twilight Boundary. It's a complete custom card. Like I think it deserves that title with how much it does. So obviously max it out. These are the cards we want to find. In the early game, we really want to be drawing cards because it helps us dig into more pieces, more defensive cards, whatever we need in hand. So I did want to run Howling Moonlit Night at 3 copies. So in the event I'm not finding Twilight Boundary, I'm most likely finding Howling Moonlit Night. I love the Eclipse Moonlight. Funny enough, this one has a misprint here. It doesn't give the cost to Counterblast, even though we're seldomly paying that anyway. But I do like having the 1 copy just to spawn a Shadow Army token in the late game. It's just a great way to push out extra aggression, especially since we're running Overcoming Eternity to be able to give our Shadow Armies more power. Just that extra power to give it more pressure is nice. And then, of course, not that this matters too much since Twilight Boundary can change its name. Just having more names for Polarxis is also quite nice to make sure we can be making use of its effect. So these ratios have felt good. Overcoming Attorney specifically at 2 copies because I do really like setting one up so if one gets damaged, awesome. I did originally run this thinking, oh, maybe I can set up 2. I haven't really gone for it, but again, I do like at least making sure I have access to 1 because the extra power to bolster the offense has felt relevant. The count of 10 of these orders has also felt correct. I tried running it at 8 copies, and was that rough. There wasn't enough copies to find them, and mainly at the quantity I wanted to make Orphis feel like I'm maximizing that offensive output, especially by turn 3. But the moment I added in 2, bumping up the count to 10, I'm finding plenty to support my offense and keep up. Mainly it was the issue I really felt like I was running into that bumping up to 10 solved was there just wasn't enough in deck for me to realistically find enough of them to be able to set up the count I want on my first grade 3 turn. So basically my first grade 3 turn was feeling rather lackluster. I needed the extra turn and the extra to be able to draw into the rest of them. So yeah, wishing I could cut it less because I would love more space, but alas, you gotta do what you gotta do to make sure this deck is running smoothly. Also tied to this is the 4 Delcomanus. This is great because it can pinpoint search, so and set up the drop for stuff like Polarxis and both Orphis to be able to set stuff from the drop. While it's not necessarily sweat Orphis, choose a world from your drop. Okay, Mask needs you to set it from drop. Regis does not. But it's still nice to be able to do that. It also lets us tech out Overcoming Eternity and Eclipse Moonlight since they don't generate us any value and thus are the ones we typically don't like to draw into. At least Delcomanus can dig those out of deck and find them and set them up. Delcomanus is also really nice because, as I mentioned, it can be used early as well for some early game pressure for the opponent, but it also makes good numbers both on turn 1 and turn 2 into opponent's grade 1 and grade 2. But also it having the drop effect to be able to call a Shadow Army token, just great conversion later into the game to make sure you can keep a board up because you do need units for Orphis to overcall Shadow Army tokens on, even if they are Shadow Armies. And then with Overcoming Eternity, they just get even more powerful, so you're just maximizing on the power output in general. So 4 copies because like it just maximizes our consistency to find our world orders, and it's just a good card in general. Very relevant effect for the deck. Next up, we've got 4 Polarxis Dragon. This is one of our ways to keep our orders set up because you can just reset it from drop for a Soul Blast. It's also nice because when you overcall it, you get to draw a card, so it's further card draw to dig into more pieces as well. Maximizing this because it is a great card to find in the mid to late game just to keep your offense going and, well, get cards to survive and continue to pressure the opponent. 1 copy of the Ace unit. This is just good because its effect lets us check top 3 or even potentially top 5 for any card. It can find whatever we need it to. That's just a good consistent card in general, and it's big numbers ahead of just overcalling with the Shadow Army token with Orphis effect. For perfect cards, 3 of the effect ones where if you have 1 or less cards in hand, you don't have to discard, and 1 Elementary Sanctitude. I don't see much reason to deviate from this pattern with this deck. I couldn't come up with a reason to do so. So keeping the standard pattern. And then for triggers, we have 8 crits, 3 fronts, 4 heals, and the 1 OT. I think OT is pretty self-explanatory. Rank 8 OT good, and this deck can easily utilize its full potential. 8 crits, no effect crits because because you want to overcall stuff with Orphis effect and the effect crits disappear. And I don't feel like this deck needs the soul. It generates plenty of soul anyway, so just keep the 5k good numbers, stays around on board. Front triggers, this deck doesn't really need much draw power. It's got plenty of draw power, so we just like the extra power to the front row to really just emphasize that offense. I would be worried with draw triggers about decking out, I'm going to be honest. For the heals, no effect heals, and this is because the decks I anticipate playing into are quite diverse in what they do, so I want to maximize on general shield value than specializing for specific matchups. Obviously, change it up as you see fit based on what you anticipate to play as well. So finally, I want to discuss how I feel about this deck list overall. And since I'm not a meta player, I'm not talking in terms of the meta, I'm talking in terms of just enjoyment piloting it, which typically comes from, does the deck feel like it is coherent, it does what it wants to do, and can effectively do that in gameplay frequently enough to where it is reasonable? And the answer to all that is just yes. It felt like it got a huge boost when it got the promo, the Twilight Boundary. I'm trying to find it real quick. Grade 1 order lets you build up your orders a bit quicker for more offense, more orders to be able to send with Orphis sooner for just bigger offense. Obviously, Spying Shadow token's great. Drawing card to help this offense keep going. Amazing stuff. Really good card. And that left the Dragon Tree side, the Mask side, feeling rather lacking because, you know, you still had to make sure you found it, but then you also need to make find your world orders. You've got no cards that really do that. Like, you can pinpoint search your Mask, but you still need to find your Orphis, and nothing can pinpoint search that. This card just solves that. So that side of the effect feels really smooth and consistent because you either, a lot of times I'm experiencing, you're either just naturally finding Mask or Orphis, or you're finding this which can find both. Perfect. So, and this really let me feel like I can concentrate my list around, like, I've got my Mask side all set in. Now I can really focus on making sure the order side is properly supported. And it just kind of felt like it really came together really once I addressed the issue of running too few orders that I don't feel like I previously experienced with the deck, because the previous support card Raffalog, top 7 could find order or Mask stuff, but it was top 72, you had to find it, so you didn't always find the piece that you were actually missing as well. And that's just not really a factor in this deck. So it feels like a well-oiled machine. I love feeling like a deck come together like this and feel like it's properly supported to do what it wants consistently enough, effectively enough. At least for casual play, I feel like it does all that, and I really enjoy it. So if this sounds like the kind of deck you want, highly recommend it if you can find the pieces as well. It's a really cool deck, and it's nice to see just it even indirectly get support, especially since Orphis has kind of been the OG deck that has not been getting the most, it has kind of fallen off in terms of dedicated support of the OG stuff as recent. So all in all, yeah, those are my thoughts on Orphis, and now I want to hear from you all. What are you running in your deck that is different from mine? I want to know why, especially with like the reason why you're running it and the ratios you choose to run it. This exchange of information I absolutely love in the comments because I feel like it gives me new ideas to test and overall makes us all better deck builders and pilots for Orphis. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell so you're notified when I do upload more content. But with that being said though, look forward to more content coming out real soon.